by Felix Ofosu, Minister in charge of government communications there, responding to some of the issues that the Chief Justice, Her Ladyship Gertrude Torkornoo, put out in that press conference earlier about the venue for this hearing, which is the Edu Lodge close to the Ofosu Castle. She had indicated that that particular location brings back some memories because her uncle was one of a number of judges who went through that place and were murdered. Felix Ofosu indicates that the link between that unfortunate act in our history and what she's going through now, the process that she's going through now, is unfounded because there's no correlation between the two incidents or the processes at play right now, and the fact that there are other government agencies working at the said Edu Lodge, and that cannot necessarily be described as a security zone as the Chief Justice put it, and that any security measure that has been put in place there is meant to secure the place from any group of persons who will try to intrude and then also obstruct the work of the committee. And he responded to the fact that it doesn't matter how sensitive your position is, it doesn't preclude constitutional processes being applied or kicking in against you if there is enough reason for that to be done. You heard him also respond to the position that she had that's the Chief Justice had indicated that all of what is going on in her view is a plot to get her out of office under the cloud of Article 146. And she says that that particular manner breaks every rule on how justice is delivered. She had also indicated that the removal process, as historic as it is, clearly violates the dictates of the Constitution, and though she's in the process alone, its effects far reaches beyond her, and that is the reason why she addressed the press earlier today. Felix Ofosu also indicates that the president has only followed the process and the dictates of the Constitution in ensuring that this process takes place as it is playing out now, and that the president has not at any point violated the Constitution in any way, shape, or form. She also, that's the Chief Justice, during her press briefing or that press conference earlier today, also indicated that the hearing being conducted at the Edu Lodge, making everyone seem as though it is one that is following the process, is meant to intimidate her and get her to resign, because some have suggested that it will be to her own good to resign or retire so that she would save some credibility for herself. She has indicated that she is not going to resign or retire. It is not an option for her or any Chief Justice for that matter. And despite great personal discomfort, she has marshaled all the arsenals at her disposal to fight this matter for as long as it will require. She's also indicated that it is her honest duty to speak up against anything that she deems wrong, and she's not seeking to cling on to any position or office as Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. These are some of the issues that the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkornoo, has been putting out, which has also elicited the responses from the government, essentially the Minister in charge of government communications, Felix Ofosu, putting out the responses as we saw a few minutes ago live from the Jubilee House. Then this is Hot Edition, 20 minutes after 5. We're going to be engaging some more conversation on this particular issue. Kwakye is our presidential affairs correspondent. He's joining us on the telephone right now from the presidency. Kamala, can you talk to us right now? What's the core reaction or the response that Felix Ofosu gave to a number of the issues that the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice, also said in that press conference that ended not too long ago?
Hello?
Hello, Kamala, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Alfred.
Perfect. Now we just heard the government spokesperson, the minister in charge of government communications, speaking about some of the issues that the Chief Justice, the suspended Chief Justice, put out in her press conference. What was the government response to that notion communicated by the suspended Chief Justice that she sees the entire process as a ploy to get her out of office, and she even suspects that the petition given to her may be different from the one given to the committee hearing her petition, because she requested for a copy of the petition from the committee and she wasn't given? Come
Well, basically, the government, led by the spokesperson of government communications, Kwakye Ofosu, did not go into the specifics of the various issues or the processes that she is going to, except to stick to the various allegations that she directed at the government. As for the process, the minister indicated that at all material time, the president has stuck to the constitutional provision, and not any one single individual has provided a scintilla of evidence that the president has breached the constitution in that regard. And so all material times, every other action taken by the president is purely a constitutional debate, and the president and the government, for that matter, will continue to stick to the provisions of the constitutions as enshrined regarding the removal or otherwise of Chief Justice. Now, on some specific allegations that was made, for instance, the Chief Justice spoke about the use of the Edu Lodge and all that. First off, government says that it is a government facility located within the presence of the Ofosu Castle, used by high-ranking senior state officials and other visiting heads of state whenever they come to Ghana. And when the committee requested for a place to hold a meeting, which constitutionally should be held in camera and in secret, it was the best place they found and gave to the committee to be used. And the facility has met the requirements as a committee. Now, the issue also raised by the Chief Justice regarding funds, it brings some regarding killing of justices and also a military officer at that particular location, carefully chosen by the government and the committee, was unfair to her and brings memory. Government says that's unfounded. It's clearly part of a state facility, even if it was the judicial service or the presence of the Supreme Court or any other area within the judicial service. It also falls within the secrecy as enshrined by the Constitution, and so it unfounded the claims that she's made. Now, also to the issue about some people who have called to tell her to resign and all that, government flatly rejects that no government official or no individual from the government side, including him, Felix Kwakye Ofosu, has ever called the Chief Justice asking her to resign. And he also rejects the claim that all of this is skewed just to make the Chief Justice leave office because of the specific allegations that have been leveled against her. And so at all the allegations that she has raised, government says there's no scintilla of evidence indicating that government has breached the Constitution. What is important, though, is that she's going through the constitutionally mandated provisions for her required in 146, which the president is sticking to.
Now, there appears to also be that clear position that government has taken not to get into the merits of this particular case. Kamala, is it not? Because the constitutional provision bars any sort of public engagement on the merits of the case. But the government communications minister speak about the Chief Justice's decision to, as it were, now put out the details of the petition in this press conference you addressed?
That will not necessarily fault her for it. It is a choice that she decided to make, but the most important thing for them is that on the side of the government, they will continue to live by the dictates of the Constitution, where the provision is to the effect that every other thing should be held in secrecy and in camera. The more reason why government or no assigns of the government have leaked out anything regarding the petition. In fact, the very first time the president personally even responded to what Chief Justice wrote, the president expressed his misgivings and disgust, for want of a better word, how the Chief Justice even shared details of what she was writing to him, to the public, before it even got to him. But however, the presidency has moved on and indicated that they will continue to live by the dictates of the Constitution. She decides to do a press conference, said they do not have any qualms with that because it's a constitutional right to free speech, but the committee and the government will continue to live by the dictates of the Constitution that indicates that all the processes until her removal or otherwise will strictly be in accordance with law that states that it should be in camera or it should be secret.
Kwakye is our senior presidential affairs correspondent, giving us...
Appreciate it.
As always, Kamala, appreciate you. Giving us updates and also some reactions to the suspended Chief Justice's press conference earlier today by the Minister in charge of Government Communications, the Felix Ofosu. But let's backtrack a bit and listen to exactly some of the issues that were put out by the Chief Justice earlier today during the press conference.
As Chief Justice, if you read all my responses, you'll find that I provided all the records behind these decisions. Then he complains that I recommended judges to be appointed to the Supreme Court, so I should be removed as Chief Justice. Now, anyone who knows how appointments are made with recommendations from the Ghana Bar Association, the Attorney General, and the Chief Justice will know that this last complaint only shows ignorance of a very long-standing tradition.
So she would rather let help. So that's the Chief Justice, Gertrude Torkornoo, there addressing the press. And then also she indicated a reason why she is not going to resign, as has been suggested by some others. She would rather stay on and fight and ensure that, in her view, the right thing is done.
What Mr. Ofori did not seem to know, which I stated in my answer to that allegation, is that the judge his case was transferred from had a family crisis and had to leave Ghana suddenly for an extended period, were not defended because they were true and I had no defense to them. As Chief Justice of the nation, who has been given the privilege and obligation to lead administration of justice, I should not turn tail and run when I know the implications of not defending false and unwarranted charges. If I resign under these circumstances, I will be saying that this flawed, unknown, and opaque process is acceptable. It is not. Finally, let me respectfully say that the current bizarre proceedings I have brought to your attention presents a twist to our nation's democratic journey that we all ignore at our own cost. My humble view is that Ghana has come too far in the 33 years of the Fourth Republic not to be concerned about the unconstitutionalities that have been designed not to affect just me personally as Chief Justice, but all judges and public officers subject to removal processes of Article 146, if this one is successfully carried out without being questioned. Behind me is every judge in the country. Behind me is every commissioner or head of an independent constitutional body in the country. If this is successful, it will be tried on anyone. I am not countering these processes for myself, but on account of the leadership burden that I carry. If the nation is willing to accept these developments in its democratic journey, it must be understood that I sounded the warning and the nation took the decision to be passive about it. I cannot share the burden of those involved in designing and implementing this enterprise of pretending to use Article 146 proceedings to remove a Chief Justice through unknown and unlawful means.
That's a Chief Justice there. Gertrude, Araba, Sackey, Torkornoo there. And one person who's been following this process right from the beginning is the former director of the Ghana School of Law and lawyer Sari is joining us on the telephone right now. So thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us here on Hot Edition.
You're welcome.
And I start off from the last words of the Chief Justice, as we just heard at the press conference, that this entire process in Heavy is a pretense in using Article 146 to remove a Chief Justice. Meanwhile, there is in Heavy an agenda that is at play. And then also the fact that she's using this press conference as a warning and sounding that warning to Ghanaians. And when all things play out, it would be the case that the nation did not heed to the said warning. I mean, was there any merit, and would you say she was right in coming out to fight or put out her case in the court of public opinion?
No, the wrong approach. I don't think that this is the first time, that we are witnessing in a purported removal of a Chief Justice. This thing started, way back in 1950 or so, soon after independence and then, the Republic. And, we have the lives of Akokosa and Sarkodie, and therefore, to say that she's, sounding a caveat or warning, that, Ghanaians must share in this, it's too late, in the day. I think that I share, frustrations with her, but, the path we have chosen is not the right one. The approach is totally wrong. The committee probing the allegations was established by the president. If she has any misgivings, she must address her concerns to the president. Now that the committee is working, she cannot appear in the court of public opinion today and then next day find herself before, the committee established to go into, the allegations of impropriety against her. I think the two, cannot coexist. And being the head of the arm that watches over the justice delivery system, she must be the last person to express disfavor with the judicial process, to express a loss of confidence in the judicial process, to express frustrations, about the justice delivery system. It is, politically wrong, judicially wrong, legislatively wrong, and the fourth estate wrong. She's gotten it all wrong.
Now, but if she felt that this entire process was skewed and orchestrated in her view against her, you're recommending that she should have been quiet about it and not put out in the public, but rather address the matters to the president, the same person that she is, in her view, although not saying it explicitly, but subtly suggesting that this entire process has been orchestrated to get her out, and this process also was set in motion by the president as well. How would she trust the person that set the process that she says is set out to orchestrate her removal as the same person to address her concerns?
Okay, let's put it this way. Let me begin by asking this simple and straightforward question: when did her leadership, Chief Justice Gertrude Torkornoo, come to realize that the whole thing was orchestrated? When did she come to realize that it is a political vendetta? When did she realize that it was orchestrated and skewed to remove her? If she knew all this and yet she consented and proceeded to request the president to provide her with a copy of the petition, then she has waived her right. This is not the right time, to express any musings about, what she, now feels is a skewed process. Then right from the word go, she should have made, her intentions known to the president. Mr. President, this is skewed, and therefore I refuse to lend any credence, to this body. I will not appear. Take your post. Period. But you have agreed. You have, requested for copies. You've been challenged with the copies. You sought this. It was granted you. You appeared before. Now you are challenging the venue. You are challenging the process. And then to top it all, you are alleging that you sat, with a particular judge, on the Ofosu case, and that judge is now the chairperson, and therefore you think that, yours is a political witch hunt. I don't think, a Chief Justice must, express such, misgivings. No. Certain offices call for some aspect of I have heard, I haven't heard, I have seen, I haven't seen. So we say that, those officials must be thin-skinned so that you can face every onslaught. Now, if you are a Chief Justice, you should know that, one of the spoils of the office will be this type of thing. And if the president has set up a committee and you think that from the word go, right from the inception, it was skewed to remove you, I mean, she was entitled to refuse to appear and to tender her resignation. She did not resign, and I supported her. Said she must, go through this, and if it was politically motivated and she was, sacked because of that, it will be no news in this country. Akokosa was sacked, Sackey was sacked, others have been sacked, and so it's no news. Once she has, participated, it is too late. If she now, gives notice of her intention to resign, the law will be against her, because, it will be to the president to decide whether to accept or refuse. And I can predict that if she, tenders a notice of resignation today, it will be refused, because the Supreme Court has already made a pronouncement that if Article 144 or 146 is triggered, you cannot, after commencement, ask, to resign. The Supreme Court has already made a pronouncement in the Amwa case, and therefore she cannot avail herself of that, notification. So she must keep quiet and go through the process. She must not bring her banters into the court of public opinion and expect, to win the sympathy of the public. What would that do? to the Article 146 removal process? Nothing. Nothing. So she either, keeps quiet, and then participate, or swallow her pride, stop silent you, and then, get done with it. She can tomorrow morning go to the president and say, take your job. Finished. Now, expecting, the public to take sides is neither here nor there.
Well, you said she has the option of going to the president and say, take your job. That is an option that she says it is not even on the table. She says it's not even on the table, and that any respectfully.
The president can force her.
Yes,
the law that no employer can, force, can compel an employee. Likewise, no employee can force himself or herself into the employ or the employer. So if she feels that, she's been given a raw deal, my submission is the public, the general public, is the last entity she must approach, because the general public cannot do anything about her case. They only sympathize, express some empathy and say that if wishes were horses, beggars will ride. But in this instance, it does not apply. So she must keep quiet. I mean, she shouldn't bring the general public into a nuisance, not at all. When she got a job, it was not the general public that seconded whatever motion that was moved for her appointment. The general public, it's our representatives vetted her, found her suitable. She was approved. The president acted on the parliamentary scrutiny and approval and gave her the job. So if now the president is saying that certain citizens have petitions and therefore the petitions must be gone into, and she's against it, the only thing for her to do is to bow out and tell the president that, look, whether I'm not giving you the option, you have no discretion. I have given what I see as a skilled process. I don't want to lend credence to the end result, because that would be a mockery of democracy. Therefore, take your job. But there's something called history. History will not be kind to her. History will rather be kinder, to her, if she goes through, the entire process till the final verdict is given.
And she also insinuated that she indicated that the committee did not give her a copy of the petition that they had when she requested for it. The only petition that she has is what the president gave to her, and that she cannot assume that the details of the petition the president gave to her is the same as what the committee has. I mean, is there any basis for that suspicion that the president would give different details of his petition to her, and the committee would have different details of the petition as well?
There's no basis whatsoever. I mean, and what I expect the public to do? Do you have a copy of the petition? You don't. I don't. So if he, runs amok to us, that we should, dress her properly. We don't have, the appropriate clothes, to dress her up. We don't. So she should go back to the committee and make, the demand there that I want to see this thing I have is the same petition that is in front of you, on which I'm being tried. Now, if they refuse, she can go to court. That will amount, to, a breach, a constitutional breach. That is not what I understand her to be alleging. And what I expect the public to do in this instance, we don't have copies of, we don't even know the color of the petition, whether it's red or yellow, or brown or whatever. We don't. And because the process is founded on something called prima facie evidence, and that the proceedings must be held in camera, the general public, is unable to lend any helping hand.
So, as I appreciate your time on this, and maybe quickly before I let you go, how do you see this action that she's taking to address the press playing out for her? Is it going to be in her favor or otherwise?
I mean, it is an unwise approach, in holding the press conference at all. Let me share this with you. Because a committee was established by the president, whatever, rantings, whatever, expressions, whatever she articulates, they are intended for the ear, nose, eye, and mouth of the president, not to the general public. You must understand that. If you go to court, whatever questions are posed, whatever questions are thrown at you, whatever answers you give in response to the questions are directed at the judge, the court, not your opponent, not your adversary. So what she's done now, she's rather attacking the president. It's not good. It's not good for a Chief Justice, to do that. The Chief Justice must have absolute confidence in the justice delivery system. It is her system. She is superintending the system. If the system is rotten, she must fix it. She must not run, amok to the general public and expect the general public to fix, a broken system. If the system is broken, she must provide, an antidote to it before the committee investigating allegations of impropriety. The general public, has absolutely no contribution whatsoever, to make, in this matter. Everything, rests with the appearance and participation, the committee that has been set up, and everything will rest finally, with the report that, the committee will present to the president and what the president will make of the report. If she feels that in the middle, of swimming across the river, she's getting drowned, she should retreat. And I'm, suggesting a line of least resistance. Mr. President, I thank you very much. I had absolute trust in the process, you triggered. But it seems to me that, I can read the writing on the wall that what you had, what, you plan to be well-intentioned is turning into a farce. And therefore, I cannot continue to lend any, legitimacy to the process. That is up to the president, and all of us, who decide one way or the other who, was right and who was wrong. But bringing us in at this stage is an affront to common sense. An affront to common sense. Common sense expects the Chief Justice of a country to do what is right, what is law, what has legality, not, to turn, to sucker, with the general public and expect that the general public can overturn something that has, been done in accordance, with the dictates of the Constitution.
And I do appreciate your expert analysis on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Kwaku Asare is a former director of the Ghana School of Law, private legal practitioner himself, giving some details and reactions, analysis to the Chief Justice press conference today. And there's a lot of reaction to this. Martin Bible is private legal practitioner. He says that the Chief Justice may have just slipped into the court of public opinion and opened herself a lot more for scrutiny.
I think, yes, Kevin, unfortunately, that week you moderated, and the policy that I've seen shows that when the Chief Justice is on a private visit, then that one, her security detail must be with her. And then when it's an official trip, that one, it can be any other person. At least the last time I read it, that was clear to me. When it's a private visit, it must be a security detail with her. To the money involved, the tickets especially, you would see that generally these are not large sums. So she will get sympathy, especially from a lot of people who have abused the public purse. You know, lots of public servants have abused the public purse. Lots of public servants have traveled, all right, business class, etc. You know, even the last time the president now had to give an order that ministers should not travel first class, right? And also, did they say even business class? You know, President Mama gave a directive that there should be no first class. Then people said, nowadays, very few airlines even have first class. Then there was the question whether business class is covered. Let's dig that document and you see. But one thing that's very clear that you may not get many people contesting is that by talking openly about the money, what she brings to the fore is that definitely these are small sums. I'm not going into the merits. I'm not discussing. This is what she has said. I'm not referring to any petition. These are things that she's referred to. So she's trying indirectly to cut the sympathies of many thousands of Ghanaians who have abused the public purse. So when you have, let's say, whoever is listening and has abused the public purse, in any manner, will now be wondering that, hey, Charlie, this could have happened to me, and many have gotten away with it. So, you know that Bible saying that let he who is without sin be the first to cast the stone. And I'm telling you that people who have abused the public purse on first class tickets, etc., you know, will have sympathies because then they are careful that but this thing which we've done, Charlie, in the past, hey, somebody is answering for it, etc. So that side, she's cutting some favor. As I said, that is what she has said. I have not referred to any petition. I have not talked about any petition. I'm just basing this on what she has said.
Because you're very careful in not getting into the details of this petition, would you say that to the extent that the Constitution is very clear on this process being in camera, but the person who is at the center of this entire process deciding to come out publicly to talk about it, is this act of the press conference and getting into the details of this petition contemptuous from what you said?
Yes. It is clear from Gertrude, right, that and the Justice very matter. The Supreme Court has been clear that we shouldn't discuss the merits and the contents of the petitions. Yes, that we shouldn't discuss those. The Supreme Court has been very clear. So we are not to discuss the merits and the contents of the petitions, right? So that much is very clear that what Justice Torkornoo is reading are really from the petitions. Then that's the Supreme Court has frowned on that. Yeah.
No,
yes.
So
in a number of cases,
she's in clear contempt of the.
It's not a court of law. We cannot say that it's in contempt of the committee. Yes, we can't say so. But
you know, we could say that she's in violation of the rules.
Yes, it's a violation of Article 146, this is Clause 8, and also as further explained and clarified by the Supreme Court in the Frank Gertrude case, and also in the what do you call it? In the Derry case, the Justice Paul Derry case. So what the Supreme Court said was that in the Justice Derry case, then they say yes, you may file.
Very well.
You may file that this is a violation, and then they also even mentioned that in that case the rules of court should also come out specifically
That's Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner there. So live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 and on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Let's shift focus just a bit away from the Chief Justice, the responses and matters arising. And a member of the opposition NPP has been talking. Who is this?
He is criticizing the current crop of leadership for what he describes as an undemocratic approach towards electing the party's next flag bearer. The comment comes days